your Detroit Pistons, like I said, overachieved this year. Hell of a season. And definitely went through a rough patch, especially with the lung collapsing of Kate Cunningham. But you guys ended up being the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, had the third best record, 60-22. And you got past the first round. Obviously, it took you guys 7 games to get past Orlando, and then another grueling 7 games going against Cleveland Cavs. Seems like you guys just ran out of gas, and kind of like what you said, everything that we kind of talked about with all the red flags that your Pistons had all came to light when it mattered the most as well too, going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. But you guys have some decisions to make, man. A lot of decisions to make. You know, facing massive roster and financial decisions to essentially try to transform this somewhat young team into a legitimate championship contender, man. Like, what do you think has to happen next? Because I feel like Durant's probably going to make an All NBA team, and I believe he's going to be eligible for a massive 5 year, like $287 million extension. Although maybe because of his playoff performance, y'all can kind of leverage that and get him for a lower deal. But yeah, it's very evident need an all-star core piece, man. But what are your thoughts with how the season unwinding and what's the next steps to make sure you guys are a legitimate contending team?
Um, I think the mm, biggest thing, and one, I already saw reports today where they are saying that the consensus around the league is that Duran has lost a lot of leverage in negotiations. So hopefully we won't end up signing him for the max. That's like my dream. Because at the end of the day, Duran isn't a bad player to have on your team, but he's a bad max player. I think that's where sometimes, we get into like the amount of money that you're getting paid. That kind of depends on like how you're viewed. Um, and we can't afford to give him max player money for the production that we're getting from him. But yeah, that's my big thing. Number one is just hoping that if it feels like we're going to re-sign him, which I'm not completely upset about because hopefully he can be an asset for us to trade at a later date. But yeah, trading him, I mean, signing him for a lesser amount, I think is a great start. And then from there, it's really to me about just like attacking free agency really hard because we have a decent amount of free agents, and then using. I think if we sign Duran or maybe do a sign and trade with him involving Sasser, Holland, and then we have I think the 21st pick in this year's
Yeah.
draft, and then like another first round pick to get somebody, get some star. To me, it never made sense to draft Holland in the first place when we already have Asar on the team. They literally are the same person. No hope of, I wouldn't say no hope, but at this point, no hope of developing a jump shot. They're not shooters at all. They're just defenders and athletic guys. It doesn't make sense to have two of those on the team, especially when you're trying to win. It'd be one thing if we were still like really bad, but we're not. So he has to go. We should have never drafted him. We could have also had Edie and Klingon and a couple other guys that would are performing better than Durant is. But that's neither here nor there. But just yeah, we need like even like a lot of names they've been throwing around is like Laurie Markkinen, Trey Murphy. I've been hearing some Giannis, um, anybody like that. It's funny enough, I was telling some of my friends today, I don't know if you guys are at that point where you want to get rid of him yet, but I would even be willing to take De'Aaron Fox from you guys because it's clear as we saw tonight. I mean, yeah, they're young and they just made some mistakes, but going into next year, they will have learned from whatever in this playoff run. Those are your two starting guards. They just played 40 something minutes in like the Western Conference finals, and they both had amazing stat lines. Both of them had double doubles. Although Cat will get to Castle had a lot of turnovers, we'll get to that later. But regardless, like those are already your guards. So at this point, Fox is a luxury. And yeah, I just think that if you guys do get to that point, like I would still take Fox because he would be the second best player on our team. So, but yeah, just at this point, it's just about like going to get somebody who can take some of the pressure off of Cade, but somebody with some actual star power, somebody because if we're being, like Tobias Harris can take off some pressure from Cade, but he's not a star. He doesn't have that reliability. So that's really the biggest thing, is a lot of it, I think. sometimes our offense can dictate the defense, and in that if the offense is playing so poorly, sometimes the defense gets out of whack and stuff like that. So I think having somebody who can also like just handle the ball, keep everything afloat when K's not in the game is the main place that we need to be going, and getting a better backup center if we're going to go forward with Durant as our center.
Mm. No, I feel that. I feel that. Yeah. So would you, in a perfect world, want to try to resign Tobias? You think he'd take a little bit less? 'Cause I think he's an unrestricted free agent, right?
I think so, and yeah, I think he would probably take a little bit less if there's like some big fish that we feel like we can get, and it's between, keeping Tobias and getting that person. Of course, that's the play. We got to do that, but um, I think what depending on what the trade market looks like for some of these guys, I think what the smart thing is going to be is to start off free agency, sign a couple of guys, and then make a trade. So that way we can, you know, go over the set. You can go over the salary sometimes when it comes to trades versus being able to like actually just outright sign somebody. So hopefully that's the route that we go.
Mm. And then last thing, it just kind of popped up into my head. I don't know why, but do you think it would have made any form of a difference if you guys still had Beasley this season?
Yeah, but I don't know if in that game, I don't know. I mean, maybe we wouldn't have never got to that game if we had him, but yeah, I mean, he's a great shooter. That's just undeniable. So if we had him and Duncan Robinson, I think that's kind of what made last year's team special as well, as we had Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. This year, it felt like we really just had Duncan Robinson.
Mm.
So yeah, a second really good shooter. It'd be great if he just didn't decide he wanted to bet on himself and people he knew, but what can you do?
Yeah. Was Kevin Horter ass or he was just hurt or both?
Both. I know. I don't think he was even hurt. I think he was just ass. He just didn't want to.
Damn.
But that's another thing. I mean, we just extended him, so it's probably not going to happen. But JB, the coaching in that game 7 was fucking terrible, in my opinion. Like, why are you, and I get he played good minutes in game 6, but why are you playing Marcus Sasser so much in a game 7 when you didn't even feel like he was good enough to play at all in the regular season? Like, he barely played at all in the regular season, but he's good enough now to get minutes in game 7. Like, to me, that's also coaching malpractice. Like, you either you did a bad job in the regular season or you did a bad job in the postseason. But one of the two, you weren't doing a good job at evaluating this guy. And it's just a lot of it's a lot of stupid stuff that he was doing in terms of his minutes and matchups. But
Mm. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing, what you guys do this offseason. Kind of like we talked about for my takeaways from the semifinals as well, too. With Cade and Anthony Edwards being the best American players in the league right now. What's up? What's up? So I feel like y'all got the same type of assets to move around, but definitely got some decisions to make. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens because as much as I like to troll you and whatnot, I do fuck with what you guys got going on. You know what I'm saying?